Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. I am your host, AJ Shaw. Big week for games across the region for high school basketball. Tournament games going on. Of course, the Manhattan boys playing down in McPherson at the Roundhouse, the historic Roundhouse. Girls basketball next week will be in McPherson for the Mid-America Tournament. This is the 61st time McPherson High School has hosted such a tournament for boys basketball. And it is quite the tournament, but so far it has not been Manhattan High's tournament. The boys have really struggled out of the gate, and we'll hear from Cole Deutschendorf in just a second. I'm going to try not to call him Deutschendorf. Cole Deutschendorf here in just a second, talking about the game from last evening. The girls, of course, they played as well last evening. We'll hear from Mitch Fortner as well as head coach Scott Mall, head coach Benji George coming up in a little bit. We'll also hear from other head coaches across the area, including Rock Creek head coach Justin Smith, the boys basketball coach, and Frankfort boys basketball coach Adam Schreiner. First time we've talked with Coach Schreiner in the new year. But we'll start with Manhattan High boys down in McPherson last night. Cole Deutschendorf on the call for that one at last evening's game, as Manhattan High falling in that one in last evening's ball game.
Last night, the Manhattan boys fell to the Free State Firebirds in the second round of the McPherson Invitational Tournament in a contest that got away from the Indians in the second half. In the first quarter, the story was turnovers for the Indians, as Manhattan had as many turnovers as shots taken. Free State was dominant in the boards throughout the game with a 23-8 advantage in the first half as they pulled out to a 10-point lead. The teams traded 2 buckets to start the third quarter when the Firebirds went on a 10-0 run, extending their lead to 20. The lead would get as high as 23 before a 10-0 run in favor of the Indians cut the lead to just 13. The comeback ultimately fell short, with the Indians going cold late in the fourth quarter. Landon Knopp and Will Carpenter led the way for Manhattan with 8 points each. 6'8" senior for the Firebirds Braden Wilms dominated in the first half with 11 points and 2 blocks. Free State converted in 41% of their shots and 38% of their threes compared to 32% from the field for Manhattan, and a cold 4 for 17 from beyond the arc. Manhattan will face Hutchinson for 7th place at 11 this morning. For Scoreboard Saturday, I'm Cole Deutschendorf.
And really appreciate that, Cole, as they play the 7th place game. That'll be coming up later today as Manhattan High falls to Lawrence Free State. The other game that was being played was the Hutchinson-Wichita East game. On the other side of the bracket, you had the 3rd place game and you had the championship game. McPherson, of course, who Manhattan played on Thursday night. They were in that game last night against Shawnee Mission East. And then you had Blue Valley West taking on, can't tell who that is. Never mind that. I'm not. Pardon me. Shawnee Mission. St. James Academy. I'm sorry. That is a very weird way Mitch writes his J's. Looks like a U. I'm like, I don't see a U on there. Anyways, but yeah, St. James Academy was taking on Blue Valley West last night. But the McPherson Invitational Tournament, final game of that tournament later today. Manhattan High, of course, will play for that 7th place game. After the game, Cole had an opportunity to catch up with head coach Benji George.
240. I'm joined by Manhattan head coach Benji George. Coach, just kind of walk me through that stretch in the third quarter where Free State kind of poured it on the offensive end.
Well, I told him at halftime I really liked our defensive effort. I thought it was a lot better than last night. But the defensive possessions, we weren't rewarding ourselves with rebounds, and it was 23-8 on the boards at halftime. Mm-hmm. And everything else was equal. They weren't shooting well, we weren't shooting well, everything else was equal. They were just getting so many more shot attempts than we were because of the rebounding. And then for whatever reason, on the other end of the floor, the third quarter, that defensive intensity kind of went away. And it came back in the fourth quarter, but you just can't have those lulls. I don't know what it was, 4-minute, 5-minute stretch. When the defense went away, then as bad as we were offensively, that gave us no chance offensively, and it got away from us. I like how we responded in the fourth quarter. We got a lineup on the floor that was willing to play hard and turned it around. The hole was too deep.
And in that fourth quarter, you mentioned it, a lot of your players still fighting, scrapping for every loose ball. Will Carpenter comes to mind. He was fighting deep into that fourth quarter. How important is that mentality to keep moving forward?
Well, I mean, it's hard because, we get an and one in the fourth quarter, and we cut a, 25-point lead to 13 or 12 or whatever it was. And there was no excitement on our bench whatsoever. And until we can fix that from a culture standpoint, none of the basketball stuff's going to matter. We're just really selfish right now, and fighting some immaturity. And, it's probably as honest as I've ever been on a radio interview, but it's just that's the reality right now. And then we got to fix our culture, and it's got to get better, and we got to support each other more, and we got to get excited when a teammate has success. And it's going to take some maturing. And I don't know if it can happen in 24 hours, but that's where we're at right now.
What do you think are the next steps to fixing that sort of issue?
I mean, I think it starts with some combination of lineup that was on the floor in the fourth quarter, because I thought the guys that were on the floor in the fourth quarter really did do those things. But it doesn't take very many to steal some juice out of a culture. And so, I mean, we have to look at the film, and I think it starts there. I think it starts with those guys in the fourth quarter that were really fighting, because we can build around that.
And again, having to rebound and play less than 24 hours tomorrow against a Hutch team that was coming into this tournament ranked the 2 seed, lost a couple of close games. How important is this next game for you guys to try to get back on track?
Well, I think the other side of it is we've lost a lot of confidence right now too, and we need to see the ball go through the net. We need to shoot better shots in order for that to happen. But we got to just kind of play a little ticked off and like we're hungry for a win. And it was there in spurts tonight more than last night, but it's got to be for 32 minutes. And until it can be that, then we're going to keep going through this. So, hopefully the competitors that live inside of us and our kids wake up tomorrow and bring it for 32 minutes.
And any thoughts preliminary on Hutch, or not thinking about that one just yet?
I have not had. I had the Free State Scout, so I've not looked a ton at Hutch. I saw that the guard was, pretty good and physical, but outside of that, I'm going to have to watch some film here.
All right, Coach. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the evening. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Boy, that was a pretty incredible comment there from Benji George, saying that his team is not playing selfless basketball right now. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. Manhattan High is not playing great right now, and I'm not going to sit here and say that these games are easy by any stretch. They played some real good teams so far in the tournament, but that is a real stinging indictment right there. Guys are not playing selflessly like right now. Woo, that could be something to keep an eye on the rest of the season, as they'll play Hutch later today for the 7th place game. But Benji George not holding back in that post-game conversation with Cole Dutchendorf here on News Radio KMAN. But we'll have that 7th place game for you later today, an 11 o'clock tip. So we'll get on the air about, I'm assuming about 10:45 probably for pregame coverage. Cole will have it for you. And then, of course, we'll have the K-State Colorado game later today, the K-State West Virginia game later today. I'll actually be over at Bramlage watching that one, so hopefully K-State men's basketball can get things turned around today. But, yeah, a real honest conversation right there. And, Benji George, he is a very honest guy. He always has a lot of things to say in the conversations he has with us here on the radio. But that probably was the most honest he's ever gotten about his frustration with his team, or just his excitement with the team in the past. But boy, that was a real interesting thing to say right there. So hopefully that can get turned around real quickly, because Manhattan High right now not sitting in a great position. Of course, still a lot of season to go, and you got the Hutchinson game later today. Maybe you get a little bit of confidence winning that game. But then right out of the break, you got to play Blue Valley. You got to play Topeka. Got to go to Emporia, Washburn Rural, Topeka on the road. Hayden then, after the 3-game road trip in the first portion of February. Then Junction City on the road. And they did lose last night, their first loss of the season. But still, though, by that point of the season, it's going to be a tough game, especially going to Junction City, a place that Manhattan's had problems. The schedule doesn't get much easier, especially once you get back into Centennial League play. Coming up next, we'll hear from Mitch Fortner on last night's Manhattan Girls game. Also, head coach Scott Mall. Plus, we take you around the rest of the region for the rest of the scores. Of course, stay tuned. Later on in the program, we'll be joined by Rock Creek boys coach Justin Smith and Frankfort boys coach Adam Schreiner. That's coming all your way next year on Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. We continue here on Scoreboard Saturday. News Radio KMAN on this Saturday morning. AJ Shaw with you here. Of course, our program brought to you by the fine folks over at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network, internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. That's WTCKS.com. As we mentioned earlier on in the program, Manhattan High boys falling last night in the consolation game to Lawrence Free State at the McPherson Invitational Basketball Tournament, the 61st annual McPherson Tournament at the historic Roundhouse in McPherson. And they will play later today against Hutchinson for the 7th place game. Tip at around 11 this afternoon. We have a busy day of sports ahead for you on this Saturday with K-State women's basketball coming up later today in Boulder against Colorado. From what I'm hearing, the weather's not so great out there in Boulder. That's coming up around 2. Most likely we'll get that started for you. Hopefully by then, Manhattan High will be completed, but we'll get to that around maybe 1:30, maybe a little bit later, depending on the situation with Manhattan High. And then K-State men's basketball will follow that here on News Radio KMAN as they take on West Virginia tonight at Bramlage. The tip at 5 from the Octagon of Doom as K-State trying to end its very long losing streak, not only in conference but in general. It's been a rough couple of weeks for Jerome Tang's squad as they've really hit a lull in the middle of the season. Manhattan High girls last night did not have a tournament game. They had just a normal regular season game taking on Blue Valley Stillwell, team that came in 2-6, Manhattan at 6-2, and Scott Mall's team sitting in a pretty good position right now. Were they able to keep that going, Mitch Fortner?
Yesterday, the Manhattan Girls played on their home floor in a non-league game against Blue Valley, was able to overcome first half inconsistent free throw shooting and foul trouble to pull away from the Tigers in the second half and win the ball game by their largest lead of 13 points, 57-44. The foul trouble for Manhattan was with Delaney Larson and Cap Ball. Two of Manhattan's top players each had 3 fouls in the second quarter. As Coach Scott Mall took the gamble, they would start the second half and not pick up a foul the rest of the way. For Manhattan, a big second half from Bailey Bush, finishing with 14 points. She had 16 altogether in the game, 9 points each from Delaney Larson and Cap Ball, 6 points Elena Depuswal, 2 from Jordan Hall, 5 from Avery Ingram, 2 points Isabel Peabody, and deep off the bench, a freshman, Ebby Banks, finishes with 8 points. Manhattan hit 4 threes in the first half, did not make a 3 in the second half. Historic Kansas City Royals left-handed pitcher for 15 years, Paul Splittorff. His granddaughter plays for Blue Valley. She is a 5'9" freshman, and she is a star player. She finished with a game-high 17 points, almost evenly split between the first and second half. 13 points from Layla Barnes, and then just 2 other players scoring for the Tigers, 8 from Bella Wambolt and 6 from Lily Lund. Well, for the Blue Valley Tigers, out of the Eastern Kansas League, their record now falls to 3-7 overall under first-year head coach Natalie Knight-Johnson, the former KU Jayhawk. And for the Manhattan Lady Indians, they improved to 6-3. They are now 2-1 on their home floor. And coming up next for the Manhattan Girls, it's mid-season tournament time. The Tribe in the 30th annual Mid-America Classic from the historic Roundhouse in McPherson will square off in the quarterfinals against Wichita Southeast, 6:10 for the tip-off this coming Thursday, January 30th. Pre-game coverage 5:55. The Manhattan Girls knock off the Blue Valley Tigers on Friday night, 57-44. I'm Mitch Fortner for Scoreboard Saturday.
And really appreciate that, Mitch, as Manhattan Girls get it done again. They win it by the final score of 57-44. 7-2 now for the season, and like Mitch mentioned, they'll be headed Now for McPherson, I don't believe that bracket is out just yet, but of course stay tuned to News Radio KMAN for the latest on that with some of the games. But yeah, after that tournament, schedule does not get much easier with games against Topeka, Emporia, Washburn Rural. Topeka again. You got to play Topeka twice in 9 days. Hayden then, of course, and then Junction City on the 21st. But Junction City boys against Manhattan boys on the 21st. Boy, I'm looking forward to that game. Those games are always great. Junction City won the first matchup back on for the boys game back on January the 14th. Scott Mall, legendary head coach at Manhattan High with Mitch following last evening's ball game.
Girls basketball coach Scott Mall. Coach, congratulations on the victory. I want to first start with the foul trouble that you ran in there in the first half because two of your best players, Delaney Larson and Cat Ball, they run into 3 fouls each. What did you tell them at halftime about how they should play in the second half dealing with that foul trouble?
Well, I mean, not a lot. It just, you have to be. I kind of took a chance playing them both with 2 fouls. I knew before I thought, well, if I leave Kat in, sure enough, she's going to get her 3rd foul, and sure enough, did right before the end of the first half, which hurt. But and it wasn't like they were doing anything bad. It was just, they got caught reaching a couple times, got caught being aggressive. But I thought they played good with the fouls in the second half. They played good defense. And our girls, we had some girls off the bench, stepped in and played really well in their place. Especially in the first half, Avery and Ansley both stepped up and did a good job spelling them. And, that's what you need.
Blue Valley there in the second quarter after it was kind of a slow start scoring the basketball for both teams in the first quarter. You guys kind of get things going a little bit, and they switched to a zone defense for a lot of that second quarter. Were you expecting that at all?
I knew they played mostly man-to-man, but I had seen them play a little 1-3-1 and a little 3-2. They're long enough, they have good size all over, and we haven't seen 1-3-1. And so, we got a nice spurt there in the second quarter when it felt like we weren't getting anything done on offense. We, 2 or 3 times in a row, we just made some iffy passes that turned out bad. And, it was just a matter of being patient, figuring out where the gaps were. We got some nice drives. I thought the girls did a nice job of spreading them out and then getting some drives to the basket. And then we missed some shots in there. Scott's girls worked hard to get some good shots. We just didn't always get them in the hole.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next couple of questions here because I agree with you. I thought execution, especially in the third quarter, in the paint was really good with cuts and backdoor cuts and things like that. The pick and rolls was really good. Why don't you get your thoughts on Bailey Bush's performance? 14 points in the second half. She finishes with 16, and she was getting to the free throw line there at the end and making them to put the game away.
Yeah, that was big that she hit those free throws because first half seemed like we hit maybe half, and we had some good shooters up there, but when it was tight like that, we needed to hit more than 50% of our free throws. But that was big in that situation when she could step up there and I don't know what she made, 4 or 6 in a row, something like that. But when you knew they were going to foul, and she's aggressive enough, she's going to draw some fouls, so it's big when she can put them in the hole.
And then, Delaney Larson, again, she had that foul trouble, didn't score 3 points in the second half, but she's also such a tough defender. And I noticed as well her right pinky finger was wrapped up. Was she playing with a little bit of pain on the shooting hand today?
Yeah, she dislocated her finger in practice. It was really ugly. Nobody wanted to look at it, but they popped it back in, and she was, Delaney, she's going to play through it. But, she did a good job of getting things done. I thought our big girls all came in and did a really good job because they do a lot of stuff through the 45. They like to lob to her, and we wanted to talk about positioning, and I thought all of our big girls really did a good job of not giving her a lot. If she scored inside, mostly it was off of rebounds or if somebody made a mistake somewhere else. But I thought that was a big key to the game.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you about was actually about rebounding because I thought Depuswal, the last couple of minutes, came away with 2 big rebounds. She had that block as well to kind of also help put the game away. I thought there for a while as well. You guys were getting a lot of second and third chance opportunities because your team was pretty active on the offensive glass.
Yeah, and that's always important. We have some, Kat always gets a lot of offensive rebounds, but we get those girls. Kat's aggressive. Bailey gets in there. Isabel's really aggressive all the time, and then anytime that, we keep working rebound because we're not always as good at that as I would like to be. But we keep working on it. But we're going to scrap for anything. I knew this was going to be just a physical, ugly game because the game was going to be. They play physical ball. I thought the officials were going to let a lot of the physical stuff go. just, every official judges things differently. They were watching us for reaching, but it was going to be physical, and you just have to play with that. It's going to happen sometimes, and I thought that was good that we battled through that.
Guys, ready for your midseason tournament in McPherson?
I hope so. It's going to be tough. We open Wichita Southeast is always a scary team to play because they can be very unorthodox about things and get after it. And then we're in the same bracket with Andover Central, who beat us last year and who's playing really, really well this year. And so we're going to have to hopefully go in there and play really well and have some good things happen for us.
All right, Coach, congratulations on the victory today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Mitch.
It's Manhattan Girls head basketball coach Scott Mall in postgame. We'll take a final time.
Mitch Fortner, and it looks like we had some tech problems right there. Sometimes when he's at Manhattan High, the connection gets all screwed up, and we've had that issue before on the game. So apologies for that. I was thinking it was an issue on our end here currently, but it just looked like it was a connection problem out there last night. But Manhattan Girls gets it done. They now head to McPherson next week. Not McPherson. Whatever. I thought I was going to say something, and then I just forget about it anyways. Wouldn't be an A.J. Shaw show without him saying something random and silly and whatever. Being that this is the final time that I am behind this microphone for Scoreboard Saturday, I have a little thing to say at the end of the program to you fine folks who have tuned in and listened to this show, as well as the great coaches that we've talked to over the years. But Manhattan High Girls gets it done, and they get the victory last night. Well, we were going to talk to Steve Fritz, the Wamego boys coach. Unfortunately, they have an early game this morning, so they had to get home real quick last night, and we just decided we would push that back for another date. But Wamego girls last night, they'll be playing. They're playing over in Salina right now, the Invitational Tournament. They fell to Andover last evening after Andover got the victory over Junction City on Thursday. Andover defeating Wamego by a final score of 51-35. So Wamego will play at 1 o'clock today against, it's not going to be Buhler. Hold on a quick second here. They're going to be playing Salina South. They'll take on Salina South. Buhler got the win 54-50 last night. So probably a bullet dodge there for Wamego because Buhler would have come into that game 9-2. That would have not been helpful, but instead Wamego will play in the third place game. That game's actually going to be at 10 a.m. today. I apologize. The championship is at 1 as Buhler will take on Andover for that one. Those are two pretty darn good teams going at it over in the Salina Invitational Tournament. The Trojan Classic last night, the Hillsborough Classic, you had Riley County, of course. They got the win on Tuesday in overtime when they took down Eureka 53-46. I got to pull up these scores here because I have a number of them up on my phone, so give me just one quick second right here with the Riley County scores. This is Twin Valley League. We'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about Frankfort. But Riley County got the win on Friday night. Tuesday night, the girls. Last night, Riley County playing against Heston, and Riley County sitting at 7-2. Pretty good team right there. Kelsey Nelson's team. We also tried to get her on today, but never heard back from her. Maybe we'll get her on later in the season. But Clay Center girls, who were the top seed, they were taking on they actually ended up losing on as a 1 seed on Tuesday in overtime to Hillsborough. They took on Holcomb last night and got the victory 52-33. Clay Center winning the consolation game. You had Eureka and Remington as the other matchup out there. But Riley County taking on a very good Heston team last night in a game that was very important. A game that Riley County wanted to win because they were sitting at 7-2 for the season, put themselves in a position where they could be in the championship game later today, which was a 5:30 game out there in Hillsborough. That game could be a big confidence boost for sure for the Riley County girls basketball team if you're putting yourself in a position to try to have some success. But in the end, Heston gets the victory 40-30 over Riley County. So the Falcons will have to play in the consolation game later today against the winner of that Hillsborough-Moundridge game. And I'm having problems finding that game for you folks. I'm sorry. I just can't seem to find it out there. But if you're able to find it, go ahead and just let us know. But yeah, Riley County ends up losing in that big game right there, which would have been a game to definitely want to pick up a victory for sure. Wamego boys last night falling in their Salina game, so unfortunately we couldn't get Steve Fritz on today. If they had a later game, we might have been able to talk to him later this morning, but in the end, we'll see if we can get that pushed down for another time. Love to get a chance to catch up with Coach Fritz. I'm sure either Mitch or Cole, when they take over hosting this show next week or in the future, we'll try to get him on. I'll get a few other scores for you across the area last night. Topeka High Girls getting the victory over Atchison, 49-17. Topeka Hayden Girls beats Emporia in a league game, 56-16. Other girls' games going on last evening. The Frankfort Girls, Brian Ebert's team, falling in the TVL tournament to Washington County, 62-40. Emporia boys fall to Cape and Mount Carmel in their tournament, 62-40. Perry Lecompton and Jeff West. Perry Lecompton boys getting the win, 59-30 in that one. Mission Valley boys defeats Wabaunsee in a good ball game, 42-38. Royal Valley Girls defeat Santa Fe Trail, 44-30. The Rock Creek Girls, Trevor Keller's team in their tournament, defeating Chapman. Actually, that was not a tournament. That was a conference game. The Rock Creek Girls, they take down Chapman by a final of 61-42. We talked to Coach last week. If you want to listen back to that interview, that's on the Scoreboard Saturday podcast. Just type in Scoreboard Saturday and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. St. Mary's Girls getting the win over Jeff West Girls, 72-49. Clay Center boys defeat Riley County last night, 55-46. That was the boys' game. Clay Center boys getting it done. Washburn Rural boys beating Webster Grove, 64-58. Abilene Girls defeating Great Bend, 47-40. We mentioned Andover Girls already. They defeated Wamego, 51-35. Get you a couple other scores here. Silver Lake Girls defeat Girard. Defending state champion Silver Lake wins it 50-48. And the Axtell boys defeat Centralia in the TVL tournament, 46-31. Coming up next, we'll talk with Rock Creek boys coach Justin Smith. His team currently playing their tournament. We'll talk to him coming up next here on Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. Back on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. AJ Shaw with you here for the final time behind the News Radio KMAN microphone. It's my last. Yesterday was technically my last day, but I wanted to do one final show with you fine folks before I called it a career here at Manhattan. No, I am going to still be in radio, I'm hoping. I'm just headed back home and have a few things lined up there, but it's been a true honor, and we'll talk a little bit later on in the program. Have a few things I'd like to say about that. As we continue on the program this morning, I had an opportunity last night to speak with head coach Justin Smith, the boys basketball coach at Rock Creek High School. Start to the season 7-0, but you fell last night on Thursday to St. Mary's 61-55. I want to start off with the first game against Marysville that happened earlier in the week on Tuesday. Kind of what stood out to you from that game, and then we'll get into the game on Thursday against St. Mary's.
I thought, the second time we played Marysville, and I thought our kids did a good job of guarding them. They have one of the best players in the state with Willow Tot. And so we did a really good job the first time guarding him, and I thought we came out with really good energy the second time on Tuesday and did a great job with him, guarding him there. And then I thought we did a good job on just the kind of role players, trying to take away some of their strengths. And, it was close the first quarter. We couldn't really make a shot or do any of that stuff. And I thought we adjusted well to try to get the ball to the rim a little better in the second quarter. And then it kind of went from there. And, we had a lot of higher energy, a lot of effort, and, played pretty well for the most part of it.
And then last evening you play a game against a St. Mary's team who was also unbeaten, 9-0. They're a former opponent of yours in the old Mid-East League. You guys are no longer league opponents as you've made the switch over to the NCKL. So there was a little bit of familiarity there. I'm assuming your kids definitely knew the significance of this game, being that it was going to be a tournament-like atmosphere where you're playing another unbeaten team and a team that you've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, I wish we would have came out better. We didn't play real well in the first half, and then kind of figured it out a little bit in the second half, and got down as many as 15 and 17 there in the first half, and cut it a couple times to 4 in the fourth quarter, and just couldn't get over the hump. But I didn't think we came out well in the first half, and especially as I watched film today, we weren't very good. St. Mary's going to be one of the best teams to play all year. They're extremely talented. They have two of the best guards around. They all shoot the ball really well. They defend better than they have in the past. And so we knew it would be a good game. There's a reason they're now 10-0, and we just did it, in my opinion, in the first half, especially rise to that occasion at that point. But part of that's having a young team and having some kids that haven't been in that position yet. And, hopefully we learn that as a learning experience and continue to build off that aspect of it, even though we didn't win.
And again, these tournaments are a lot like a state title game or a state playoff game. You're playing in a state-like environment, especially against a team in St. Mary's who's really good. It gives your young guys, as you mentioned, a lot of experience for what they could expect once you get into March.
Yeah, it does, and that's kind of what we talked about going into this tournament is, if we won last night, then we would face another undefeated team in North Central tomorrow. So we knew that we were going to play good teams, and we thought we had a really tough draw in Marysville in the first round because they're a good team as well and have one of the best players in the state. So that was kind of the approach that we took, and obviously we went to state tournament last year and knew that kind of the environment and the way that the steps need to be taken when we get in those type of tournaments. And, it's a good learning experience in that aspect of it. It's teams that we may not see win. To play a team like St. Mary's that's really good is all it's going to do is make us better.
From your early impressions, what kind of stands out to you about Troy?
They're a good 1A basketball team. They got some big kids that do a good job, especially down block and in the post. And so that's something that we'll have to adjust to a little bit. We're going to play a different style than probably what they're used to a little bit by being able to get up and down. And, we 10, 12 deep with everything that we do. And so it's going to be a test in that aspect of it. And for us, more of a test of how we bounce back from a first loss and how much we grow from the mistakes that we made yesterday.
And especially because you guys like to run. You guys are definitely a team that likes to get up and down the court, and they may not be that way. So your speed is probably going to play a factor in the game too, correct?
Yeah, and just the depth of being able to throw multiple kids at them. And, they're 5, 6, 7 deep, and, we're 10 to 12 deep. And I feel like we're pretty long and athletic. And again, playing that up-tempo style, we've seemed to wear a couple teams out throughout the year here, and we've kind of developed an identity a little bit. And so it'll be interesting how we bounce back and how we approach tomorrow.
For sure. And then right out of the tournament, you got really two big games against league opponents at home. You got Silver Lake next Tuesday and then Wamego next Friday night. So it's not like your schedule's going to get much easier. How are you getting your guys' mindset after this game against Troy on Saturday when you're playing two really good teams coming out of your tournament?
Yeah, Silver Lake's really good. They only got one loss, and they're playing in that Burlington tournament that we just left, and they'll play Burlington tonight. And if they win that, they'll play an undefeated number one team in 4A, Ottawa, probably on the other side of the bracket. So they're a good basketball team. We know a lot about them. They were in the league over the last couple of years, obviously in the Mideast, and that's the one team that we've taken from the Mideast, and we continue to play still. But they got some good players. We see them during the summer as well, and then we played them a couple times last year. But, yeah, we don't have a lot of off nights going throughout our league and with the rest of our schedule as well. And, we talk about, especially at the 4A level, that every game matters so much because of seedings at the end of the year. And, ideally we want to be one of the top 4 seeds in the state where we host both games at home. And so that's a goal of ours. And, last night we screwed up in that aspect of it, but we've got to be able to approach every game like it's kind of a playoff game. And, Silver Lake will definitely be a tough test on Tuesday.
For sure. And even though Wamego's not got a great record, again, that rivalry aspect is it's always an intense game regardless of how one team is doing or if both teams are playing well.
Very much so. And they guard really well. I've seen a couple times on film just through watching other teams, and, they're long, they're athletic, they do some nice things. And like you said, it'll be a big game for both teams. It doesn't matter what anybody's record is because, it doesn't matter with rivalry games. And, we'll go into that game with pretty big or should have a decent record still. So it'll be a big game for them as well to try to knock off a team like us too. And so it'll be a good test next week, and it doesn't stop moving forward from there either.
Couple questions left for me. Health-wise, how's your team doing from a health standpoint right now?
Well, Well, I'm actually sitting next to our best player with his foot in the ice bucket, so not great. Colby Burgess rolled his ankle pretty good last night, so he'll probably miss a couple games here coming up. So missing 15, 16 points a game. That's a 3-year starter and 4-year letter winner. Won't be a lot of fun, but other than that, we're pretty healthy. But again, our depth is going to have to take over a little bit. And I thought the younger kids, he got hurt early in the second half last night. I thought there were some young kids who really stepped up and played well. There's Logan Klingberg and Porter Gill. Those kids really stepped up and played well, both sophomores, and Eli Bell played really well last night as a senior. So we'll have to pick up the slack in that aspect of it, but that's part of basketball.
For sure. Coach, always great to catch up with you. Good luck against Troy on Saturday, and good luck to you the rest of the season. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, man.
Justin Smith, the head coach at Rock Creek, the boys coach. Great to catch up with him as always, and great guy as well. Coming up next, the final segment of Scoreboard Saturday for myself. It's going to hurt a little bit. We talk with Adam Schreiner, Frankfort boys basketball coach, after these words on News Radio KMAN. Final segment of Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. Final time. I am behind this microphone. AJ Shaw with you here. Of course, our great program brought to you by the fine folks at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network, internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. That's WTCKS.com. Let's get into our conversation now. I spoke with Frankfort boys basketball coach Adam Schreiner last evening.
Great to talk to you for the first time this year, and quite the classic between you and Lynn on Friday night as Wes Anderson hits the game-winning shot with 3.8 seconds left, and you win it by 1, 46-45. Take me through that last sequence. What was kind of the play that you had designed there for your team, and what made it so successful for you?
Well, I mean, I think like any play, the players made it successful. So, Wes is a great player, and Lane had a great dish to him, and everybody else executed their part of the play. And, Wes is a guy that gets face guarded a lot, so he had a good move to free himself open on a backdoor cut and was able to get to the paint and miss the first opportunity, but being the competitor that he is, went up and got the rebound and gave himself a chance for an and one and gave us the lead and ultimately the win. So, it took all 5 of them to execute their part, but it was a good play for the kids. They did it well.
What do wins like that where you win in the last minute do for a team's confidence, you think, going forward?
Oh, I think it's big. We actually talked about that in the locker room afterwards, that for as up and down as the game was, I thought it was big for us to win one of those tight games. We've lost some games now all within 10 points. I think 3 of them within 7 points. And, there's just those winning plays throughout the game. And, might be at the end of the third quarter, might be midway through the fourth, but seems like there's always those times we get an opportunity that we just need to learn to capitalize on, and we're getting there.
So far in the TVL tournament, your team 2-1. You got the win last Saturday over Washington County, but then you fell to Centralia, but again, you get the win tonight. So you've had your ups and downs here in the tournament. What have you learned most about your team from this tournament?
Well, I know that throughout we're going to compete, continue to try to give ourselves chances, and we still need to kind of settle down in different moments. So I would like to see that moving forward. But, like you bring up the Centralia loss, again, that's a 4 or 6 point game throughout most of the fourth quarter, and we just got to continue to strive to get over that hurdle, give yourself a lead there in the fourth, and then go put it away when we get that opportunity. But this is a tough league, and night in and night out, you're going to get great games, and ultimately that helps you prepare for the postseason.
For sure, and like you said, it's a tough league, and those games they're almost like they're back-to-back. I mean, you got a back-to-back game tomorrow afternoon. You're going to be taking on, I believe, Blue Valley Randolph from what I'm hearing. So that'll be a rivalry, another big rivalry game for you right there. What kind of stands out to you about them?
Well, they got some athletes and shoot the ball extremely well, and we definitely have our work cut out for us. But, again, that's why you play the game. That's why this league is so good that night in you're going to get something. And, yeah, they're a good team, but we're going to go out and compete and see what happens.
And getting the opportunity, I'm sure, too, to get to play in your own gym for the TVL tournament, that's got to be special, too, right?
Yeah, it is. It's really fun to play in Frankfort. I don't know if you've been to that old gym in Frankfort or
Yes, sir.
whatnot, but it gets loud and it's a special environment, So when that place gets rocking, I'm not sure there's anything that really compares to it. So, and I'm kind of partial to it, being a Frankfort grad, but it's tremendously fun to play in front of our fans.
For sure, yeah. I had an opportunity to be out there for the TVL tournament a few years ago, and it was an excellent experience, and I had a great time calling those games out there. Definitely, it's always it's a great couple of matchups. I want to just talk about your team in general. You mentioned West Anderson. Talk to me about some of the guys that have also been key contributors for you early on this season.
Yeah, we go about 7 deep, and Carter Olson is our point guard who brings the ball up and gets us into different situations and whatnot. And, he's hit some timely shots for us, hit a couple threes there against Centralia to keep us in contention. And then Ty Smith is a guard that early on kind of had struggle hitting some shots, but lately the lids came off for him. And when he's hitting shots, I mean, that just adds to what we have. And then you got a bruiser inside with Fred, and Fred he competes his tail off on the defensive end and then does such a good job on posting up on the offensive end. And he's kind of like Ty, kind of had some games where the ball just didn't go in, but he's continually improved there. In the last few games, he's scored more and more, which again adds to kind of that inside outlook that we want. And then there's Lane Wiseau. Lane's been tremendous for us. I mean, he's a heck of an athlete and very physical and can play inside out. He's kind of that multi-purpose guy. And then we have 2 guys right now coming off the bench with Porter Colvin, who's knocked down some big shots for us. Came up big tonight. He wasn't feeling well, but had some key plays for us that really helped us pull it out there at the end. And then Chase Stahlbomber is a big 6'8" kid that comes in at different times, and we try to use him to protect the basket and keep things in front of him. And he's actually got a big steal for us right there at the end of the Lynn game tonight. So, everybody's contributing in their own way, and we're still trying to figure out what's the best way to put these guys in position so that we can utilize each and every one of their talents and abilities, and we're getting there.
As for health, hopefully everybody's healthy right now. Obviously, you mentioned one of your players ill, but from a physical standpoint, no injuries, hopefully early on in the season to report on?
Yep, nope, knock on wood. Everybody seems to be getting along well. One thing about this tournament, it does seem to bring on some illness throughout. So if we can get through this unscathed with illness, we'll be pretty good.
One final question from me. I want to ask you a little bit about the shot clock. How has your team been able to adjust to the implementation of the shot clock this year?
Oh, I think they've done a great job. That kind of fits our personality as far as we want to get up and down the floor a little bit and get some timely shots. And I think throughout the year, I mean, it's came into play throughout the entire year. I'd say maybe 6-7 times. And, there are times that you got to kind of look at it and make your judgment call on game clock versus shot clock. But for the most part, I think it's added to it. I really enjoy having the shot clock. I think our kids do as well, because it kind of keeps the game moving. And actually, in my opinion, gives you kind of hope on the defensive end that, you got 35 seconds, you work your tail off and then rebound the ball, and you can kind of talk the kids into that. 35 seconds at a time is what you need to do. And I'm in favor of it. I think it's been good for the game.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about the other team hanging onto the ball at the end of the game forever. So that's also helpful. Gives you that chance to get that last shot too. Coach Schreiner, it's always
absolutely
great. Yeah, Coach Schreiner, always great to catch up with you, sir. Thank you so much. Congrats on the victory, and really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate your coverage.
Coach Adam Schreiner, head coach for the Frankfort boys basketball team. Really appreciate his time, and I really appreciate our time. It has come to an end for me here at K-Man. This is my last episode, as I mentioned, here on the broadcast, and it's been a fun run. Really appreciate everyone. Appreciate Mitch Fortner, the great coaches. It's been a fun ride, and I love you all, and I'll never forget Manhattan, Kansas. Kim Commando's show coming up next. Manhattan High boys basketball coming up a little bit later after that, around 10:45. God bless you all. Good luck and good night.